My name is Gary Blakely, and I will be your MC for today. I'm pleased to welcome those here in our community center and those joining us on Facebook Live and YouTube to Kansas City Oasis. Since 2014, Oasis has been the premier secular alternative to faith-based communities. We welcome all, regardless of belief or non-belief, race, gender, sexual orientation, identity, or any other trait. We feel the human experience is better when it's shared, and we are pleased that you have chosen to share it with us this morning. Here at Oasis, we gather around our 5 core values, which are people are more important than beliefs, reality is known through reason, human hands solve human problems, meaning comes from making a difference, and be accepting and be accepted. Today's program, our featured speaker is Micah Kubic. Our musical guest is Josephine Eve. And our community moment will be from Sydney Motes. Okay. One or the other was right, yeah. All right, so Josephine, if you want to come forward, let me give you a little intro here. She's a singer-songwriter playing originals and covers from classic to R&B. She has been recording more original music and is also one of the coordinators of the all-female songwriters round, Lyrical Bells. Please give a warm welcome back to Josephine Eve.
Thank you. Hi, guys. You guys are having a good morning. I've been awake 2 mornings very early, and as a musician, that's like very rare for us. We're awake at like 5 o'clock in the morning and falling asleep when you guys are waking up. I'm going to start you guys off. I was going to do a cover, but I decided I was just feeling all originals today. So I'm going to start you guys off with one called Feeling Tired. I wrote this one about anxiety and just everything that I feel like gives me anxiety and just the most random things. It kind of started off with like being scared of like getting pulled over at any time of the day. But it's also just kind of about like vices people try finding to help with that, and just trying to find a healthy way to cope with anxiety and stuff like that. So this one's called Feeling Tired. Again, thanks for having me here, guys. I'm Josephine Eve. Scared of getting pulled over in the daylight. Something that I think about all the time, looming over me. I'm scared of little girls, and if what I'm saying is right, I said the wrong thing so many times. See the way you look at me. But all I wanna say just to make you feel alright. I used to see colors in the daylight. Now I'm so scared I think that I might get pulled over any time. Scared of going mad 'cause I can't fall asleep. Feel the nausea washing over me. But all I wanna say is read your mind. All I wanna say is if you feel feel alright. I like to write a new song. I like to write a new song in my mind. Yeah, you like. Baby, you should see me in the daylight, where you'd feel so high. Oh, but you gotta know, it could lead so high. All I wanna say is, feed your mind. All I wanna say is, if you're feeling tired, know that drugs won't make you feel alright. Thank you guys. Sorry, I broke a string on that one. Started getting a little done. Thank you guys. I actually broke a string on that one. Is there any way we can have Gary come back and talk and I can change the string really quickly? No worries if not. It's just a little bit hard. Is that all right if you, and I'll play my other two songs in the next one if that's all right? Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Sorry about that, y'all.
The AV crew. Yes. Yeah, we don't want you to be impaired with your guitar, so that was great. That was quite a good wake-up call, wasn't it? A lot of enthusiasm there. All right, birthdays this week, July the 12th, is Danny Reedy. July the 12th also is Samantha Echevarria. Did I get that right? I hope. And July 13th is Tony Lear. Any of those people here today? Okay. And anniversary, Will and Judy Manning for July the 17th. Congratulations to all of these people for these great anniversaries. Anybody else out there? Are we missing anybody? You? On the 5th. Well, congratulations. And wow, how many years? Oh, boy. Okay. You're glad 41? 41. Okay. You don't look a day over 50 or something like that. So, yes. You were robbing the cradle, I think. All right. As you know, here at Oasis, one of our core beliefs is that human hands solve human problems. A part of how we make that happen is through our care response team. Let us know if you would like to join this team. If you're going through a challenging time and need some assistance, the care response team is there. Please let us know of any retirements, weddings, births, deaths in the family, illnesses, hospitalizations, or anyone you know who would appreciate us reaching out. And do you know someone who needs a little extra pick-me-up? Contact Sarah Geelan, who can arrange for our Someone at Oasis Loves You yard sign to brighten their day. Please make a donation to Oasis and have their address available. This Wednesday, join us for a night of music bingo featuring 80s and 90s super hits and movie blockbusters as a fundraiser for KC Oasis at Surveys Brewing in Shawnee. $5 per bingo card. That's a lot of fun. We do pretty well at that when we join it. KC Fringe Festival starts this week. Please volunteer to staff our Oasis concessions table in the lobby. This is a big fundraiser for Oasis, and we need your help. This QR code will take you to the sign-up document. It is also in the Facebook private group. You know you'd like to see Fringe Festival performances, but which ones? This Thursday at Union Station's City Stage, Festival artists have just 1 minute to summarize their show and win your heart and your ticket. Expect comedy, circus, music, theater, dance, surprises, and pure fringe energy packed into one unforgettable night. Camp Quest is seeking donations of stuffed animals for an activity called Mutant Animals. Bring them any Sunday. That looks like a pretty good example of a mutant animal there. So you can contact Julie Manning if you have questions. And are you ready to dance to the songs you love to hear on the radio? Join the KC Swingsters this August for line dancing lessons and learn fun, easy to follow dances set to today's hits and throwback favorites. Every Tuesday in August, 6:30 to 7:30, $15, no partner needed. And please mark your calendar and sign up to reserve your preferred donation spot for our blood drive on August the 30th. We've been getting a pretty good response to that. I always ask the crew that comes to staff that and do that how we're, if we were making it worth their while. And they say, oh, yes, definitely. So the more the merrier. All right. Help us raise funds to mount our projector from the ceiling and install a screen for better visibility of slides during our meetings. If you'd like to see the slides better, help us out. Scan this code for a dedicated link to donate through Zephy, or if Venmo, mention projector in the comment box so we know how to allocate that. All right, community moments are an opportunity for a member of our community to present on a topic of their choice during a Sunday gathering. For today's community moment, we'll hear from Sydney Motes. 3 words to describe you are, is that here at the top? Are we going to talk about the Ozarks, history, lore, conspiracy theories? Anyway, curious, caring, and creative. I bring the receipts is the warning. There we go.
Thank you, Gary. Give me 1 moment to get my clock going here so we don't have the same issue we did last time where I accidentally deleted all my notes right before when I was trying to start the timer. All right. Okay. So, like Gary said, we are going to talk. Oh, actually, where's the guy? Thank you. All right, I'm going to give you guys a little crash course. We're going to talk about the Ozarks, my homeland. I'm actually going there on Thursday. Yes, history, lore, conspiracy theories, and more that no one asked for. And in case you're wondering how we got here, Roger asked me to do a community moment in the month of July, and I was like, okay, sure. What should we talk about? And my good friend Caitlin was like, hey, maybe you should talk about the Ozarks, because probably like a week before that, I went down this whole rabbit hole because the YouTube algorithm got me. They know I'm from the Ozarks, so they're like, "Hey, you want to hear some conspiracy theories?" I'm like, "Let's go for it." Let's see. Oh, and another point I wanted to make there was that this video that I watched on YouTube, by the way, I was like, I should probably go watch it again before I make my slides. So I go to my watch history on YouTube, and the video's gone. So take that for what you want. And so we're going to talk about an interesting fact about why a branch of the military, the U.S. Corps of Engineers, controls many wreck sites near where we live. Okay, so to start off, the Ozark Plateau is what constitutes the Ozark Mountains. It's actually just a collection of a few smaller plateaus, the Boston Mountains and the St. Francis Mountains. Now, my education, I got educated in Arkansas, so, they really skirted around my Civil War history, but they made darn sure that I knew my geography of the Ozarks and who all stayed there. A couple of things I want to point out about this is, again, it's a really interesting landscape. You know, we got the plains over up in Kansas, and then parts of western Oklahoma, and then we have the Delta region on the southeast side of Arkansas with the Mississippi River and everything. So this is really a geological marvel in the face of the rest of the landscape of this area. And you'll notice this is an elevation map. So these folks are living high up in these mountains, these plateaus, and because of that, it has created a culture that is akin to something like in Appalachia, where they have their own culture, their own music. For example, I'm wearing my shirt from Mountain View, Arkansas today, the folk music capital of the world, in case anyone was wondering. And it's just an interesting place. And again, they have a lot of history. And if anyone's never been down to the Ozarks, highly recommend, especially if you go to the natural state, even though more of it's in Missouri. The other part I want to highlight here is this is a map of, this is the modern waterways in the Ozarks. Keep that in your mind for later, that this is what it looks like today, because we're going to come back to that. The two red stars, the one over there by Fayetteville, that's where I grew up. I lived there for most of my life, and then the other star on the other side, right there on the White River down by Mountain View, that's Batesville, Arkansas. That's where I was born, at White River Medical Center. Let's see, what else? Modern, oh, and we got the Buffalo River down there at the bottom is kind of where it cuts off at the bottom of the Boston Mountains. Anybody want to go on a float trip, OA6 float trip down the Buffalo River? Lots of hands. Okay, let's get going for next summer. Because I feel like a fake Arkansan because I have never floated the Buffalo River, so yeah. But anyway, yeah, so keep this image in your mind as we go through, because it's pertinent to the thing we want to talk about, the conspiracy theories later. Okay, and then also just to catch everyone up on their history of the Ozarks also, just taking a minute also to recognize it's sacred lands to several different entities. So the Osage, the French word for this tribe, meaning the Middle Waters people. They are the folks, you guys have probably heard of them, the Osage River Valley and everything. They are the group that predominantly lived in this land for the longest amount of time, and that's the most artifacts have been recovered from them. We also have the Caddo, so translates to our people, and the Quapaw or Ogapa, downstream people. They are more the river delta area folks. Most of what we'll focus on for this real fast will be with the Osage and the Caddo. Okay, so going back in time, this is a painting somebody made, not a picture. And if you've ever been down to this part of the country, there are these massive limestone cliffs just all over the countryside down there, and they go pretty far in, and there's tons of wildlife in there, and we found through excavation many artifacts, and that like people doing burial sites here and possibly living here. That was the going theory for a while. However, nowadays, nobody thinks that anyone was actually living here, kind of like if anybody's ever been to the cliff dwellings in Colorado, Mesa Verde. Not exactly the same thing. Like, that really was like, hey, we live in the cliff. This was more of like, hey, we are hunting, we are out here, and these caves and cliff dwelling systems, they are really useful for storage because they are temperature controlled also. So imagine being in swampy Arkansas, and then you come up on this cliff and it's 60 degrees inside, and you can lean up against it and get a nice cool off going. So again, people thought that they were living in there, but really they were just using it to store things, we think, and also for burials, things like that. Here's an actual picture of one. You can see they go really far in there, and it creates a lot of natural waterfalls. There's tons of natural resources in here, like bauxite, limestone, everything, and it's a really beautiful place. If anybody's never been out there, again, I do highly encourage it. And there have been many studies and expeditions done in here to go and recover these sites for Native American relics and just for learning them for anthropological purposes, things like that. So the stuff is there. There was a whole civilization of these tribes out here, okay? So when people were settling and coming over here, they were documenting what they see. Okay, so this is another important one. Keep this one in your big brains, guys. So this 19th century painter named George Catlin, he described the Osage as, quote, the tallest race of man in North America, either red or white-skinned, there being many of them 6.5 feet tall, others taller than 7 feet, allegedly. So anyway, and he made all these paintings, you know, telling all his homies back home, like, whoa, these guys are huge, okay? Like, don't pull up on them. So knowing all that, knowing that they hang out in these caves, they store stuff in there, knowing that they are allegedly the tallest beings on the continent, according to Mr. George Catlin here. Okay, knowing all that, let's fast forward to industrialization and homesteading. So we start to excavate lands, to build railroads, to build towns. People are homesteading, digging up stuff to make their farms, whatever the heck, whatever you can farm in the mountains, which is not a lot of things. And people start digging up these burial sites. And like, you know, in this specific one, I think it says 14 skeletons found. This is from the Arkansas Democrat Gazette from 1903. So digging up remains, but then it gets stranger. Here is an instance from the Springfield News Leader from 1934. A man named J.D. Crane near Lake of the Ozarks spent several days removing trees and dirt because he's building his farm. He was astonished to find 7 skeletons. While 6 of the skeletons were of normal size, one measured 8 feet 4 inches. Now, of course, I was like, come on, no way. And I wish I would have put the slide on here. I should have, but I forgot to. I did, you know, I was on the University of Arkansas, my alma mater website, you know, they're like, yeah, so apparently they found these huge skeletons, but they tried to chalk it up to like the bones were like obviously not all put together with ligaments, so it spread out 8 feet. Not that the bones themselves would be 8 feet. Okay, whatever. Anyway, it's all good fun. And then this one, Arkadelphia, July 28th, I believe. This one was also in the 1930s. It didn't have a year on this exact thing, but it says, what is believed to be the skeleton of an Indian giant has been excavated on the Caddo River near where a group of students of the University of Arkansas, headed by Dr. S.C. Dellinger, head of the Department of Zoology. The skeleton found on the farm is said to have measured 6 feet 5 inches and has the bone structure peculiar to the Indian race, whatever that's supposed to mean back then. A group of students under supervision in taking the investigation. Basically, there's tons of accounts of them finding these skeletons, and everybody just says that they sent the bones off to the Smithsonian, and that's the end of it. So anyway, keeping all that in your mind, now let's fast forward to the 1930s. 1930s are shortly after President Roosevelt, he signed the Flood Control Act of 1938. So the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers was like, hey, let's just go flood these river valleys in the name of bringing hydroelectric power and tourism to these rural parts of the Ozarks. They're like, hey, what if we just, flood these waterways? And that is how we ended up with Beaver Lake, which is the one that was my primary drinking source growing up. I grew up in the Beaver Lake tributary. I'm sure many of you have been to Table Rock Lake down in Branson, Bull Shoals in North Arkansas, and Gruge Ferry, also in Arkansas. I'm not sure where Clearwater is. Don't quote me there. So anyway, they signed this act, and it's all just like a little suspicious, It's like, why are we going to just flood all this area now that we're finding all this really cool stuff? So here's a picture of Gersh Ferry. I wanted to bring this one in here because it's probably the one that the least people have seen because it's in the most remote part of Arkansas. It takes a while to get there. And also my dad helps maintain it whenever he was in the military. So anyway, so this is just one, like an aerial view of it. You can see they got the floodgates open. They are in the process of letting the water out here. And yeah, I just wanted to bring this up to everybody because it was something that came across my feed, and I'm like, it's just a fun thing to speculate about because we'll never really know because now it's under millions of tons of water and 100 years of sediment and water pressure. So anyway, leave it up to yourselves to decide if it was a public service or a cover-up. I invite you all to talk about it during the coffee break together. That's all I have.
That was particularly interesting for me. My mother was born to a midwife on a farm in 1924, just 20 miles south of Mountain View, Arkansas. So now I'm wondering at 6'3", do I have some Osage in me? Who knows? But yeah, that was very interesting. And well, I could add that on the farm she grew up on, they had no electricity at all. So they needed those hydro projects to electrify. My mom always called kerosene coal oil, and they just had coal oil lamps. That's all they had, and water, well water. So, all right, I'll stop talking about that, and I think we're ready for our coffee break. We'll see you in about 20 minutes, and we're going to get 2 songs after the coffee break. All right, coffee break's over. And we're going to get a treat. Josephine is going to give us the full two songs that, we normally have at the first. So, Josephine, by the way, are you playing any in a place around town? We come see you? Is it?
Actually, tonight I'm playing at Murphy's Corner for another original showcase. There'll be a bunch of musicians, not just me playing all their original music. So that'll be tonight. I couldn't tell you where. Jason told me, he was like, prepare for that question. He's like, because they might ask you where you're playing at. But I know next week, I believe I'm playing at a place called The Cove and a place called Roots Seasonal Cuisine. I just couldn't tell you what day specifically. I just know that it is next week.
Yeah. So you're going to go kind of easy on the strings right now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Gotta be a little easier this
Okay.
time.
All right. Good.
All right. Well, I feel like it happened for a reason because the two songs I'm gonna play for you guys right now go together on my album, which is called The Acid Queen. The first one is called White Horses. This is like one of the first songs I started writing when I started writing the album. And I've lived on a farm most of my life, and so we have a horse named Aretha Franklin. And so she's just a white horse, and she was running the property one day. And I don't know, it just kind of gave me a little bit of inspiration for the song. But most of the time, my songs end up meaning something completely different down the road to me after I write them. And a lot of the time, I write a song for other people to like relate to it, less for myself, and then I end up relating to it down the line. So this is like one of those ones that was like that. So I kind of wrote it about just I feel like there's so many more things out there that I can look forward to and have goals for than just relationships and stuff like that. And I've always very much put my music career ahead of anything else and stuff like that. So yeah, first one's White Horses. I'm just a fool, I never know the rules. I'll give you everything. Never gonna fuck up, never made it far. I'm scared to show you everything. I am everything you never wanna be, 'cause I always ruin things. Think I wanna be a babe, think I'm going insane, 'cause you've shown me everything. Now I'm running away. White horse, take me away. Show me things that a boy can never bring. I'm 20 with no past, 20 years is gonna fast. No one's giving me nearly anything, but I'm gonna be a star, said I'm gonna make it far, 'cause I'll show them everything. Now we're running away. White horse, take me away. Show me things that a boy can never bring. Baby, tell me what you gonna do. Spend my life with white horses like you. And mama, know you say you wanna change. Go and live your life that way. Don't be worried about a man. Ooh, ooh. Gonna be a star, said I'm gonna make it far, 'cause I will show them everything. You'll be my first love that no one ever was. White horse, I'm ready for everything. you guys. Thank you. All right, this next one is like a little medley that I did. I was originally trying to have just an instrumental song in the album, and I love psychedelic music. Pink Floyd is like one of my favorite artists. So I just wanted something that was just instrumental, but that's very hard for me to do. And so I ended up adding lyrics to the song. So I was like, I'll just make this one a short, like 1-2 minute song and it go right into another one. So the first one's called I'm Home. I wrote this one about finally like being around such feminine energy with my friends, and just very like feeling very at home with them, but also in the sense that like I've just never had a good friend group. I feel like in this year I've started finding like my friends, and I just turned 21, and so I just moved out and like going out more and stuff like that. But also Take Me to Your Parents' House kind of goes in with White Horses. I've never been in a relationship, so it's just kind of I don't feel like I need to be in one, and I feel like music is always going to be the most important thing to me. But it's just kind of a funny song because it's a goof on if people don't really know what I'm into and stuff like that, since I've never been in a relationship. But yeah, so this first one's I'm Home. See what you're doing to me. There's people around town, no. No one around has ever seen me in town with a boy. You know how that goes. I'd rather be on the screen. No boys ever made me feel that way. Though rockin' lips and loving it sweet, nobody's ever made me. Besides girls like me. Baby, I gotta run and go. Remember, don't you tell her so. 'Cause no one has ever seen me in town with a boy. You know how that go. I'd rather be on the screen. No boys ever made me feel. And loving is sweet, but it's ever made me. Besides girls like me, I feel my baby slowing in my mind. I feel it, it's driving me insane. I feel it, heartbeat, it's just like mine. I feel it, it's driving me insane. Take me to your parents' house. the feeling it that we should go home. It's getting late, but I just wanna say I feel you and I wanna go. Thank you guys, I appreciate that. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you. Thank you for that. We'll get one more number at the end of the program. All right. Our program is designed to generate conversation and engage our powers of reason, not as a forum to start debates. The following presentation has been prepared by our speaker and not by KC Oasis. Please respect the views of our speaker, and if you have any questions, a Q&A portion will follow as time permits. Dr. Micah Kubic has served as the Executive Director of the ACLU of Kansas City since January of 2022. With more than 20 years of experience in civil rights and racial justice work, Micah leads one of the largest advocacy organizations in the state, defending and strengthening the rights that belong to everyone under the Constitution. You ready? So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you to the handful of you who did the right thing. I'm going to give the rest of you an opportunity, so when I extend the greeting, it is always your job to return it. Let us try again. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Much better. Thank you very much. I knew you could do it. It's really a pleasure to be here with you this morning. Thank you for having me. Again, I've been with you a few times in the past, and so it's good to be back with you. I want to especially thank Denise, who arranged for me to be here this morning and who really does a fantastic job. I speak a lot of places, and I have to tell you that Denise is better organized, more on top of it, more thorough than just about anybody else I have ever encountered. So she knows what she's doing. So my name is Micah Kubic. I'm the Executive Director of the ACLU in the state of Kansas. For those of you who don't know, the ACLU is a national, nonprofit, nonpartisan, non-political organization founded 106 years ago for one reason and one reason only, and that is to defend the rights and freedoms that belong to every single person in this country under the Constitution. And it is especially important that we say in these times every person, because there are a whole bunch of folks running around who think that the Constitution belongs to some people and not to others, who think that the Constitution is exclusive rather than inclusive, when in fact the Constitution belongs to every single person. It protects all of us, sometimes in different ways, but every person is covered by the Constitution. So I work in the state of Kansas, and so what I'm going to talk about today is mostly for those of you on the Kansas side, but for those of you on the Missouri side, don't worry. The issue that I'm talking about is coming for you too. So I was thinking a little bit about what I wanted to say this morning, and my father is from Alexandria, Louisiana, the Deep South, a place where storytelling is both an art and a pastime. And so I oftentimes look to stories when I am looking for wisdom, for insight, for direction. And so as I was driving here today, I was thinking about what story I wanted to tell you. And I was reminded of one that my grandmother told me when I was just a little boy. She lived on a farm, so most of her stories were about farms. I know you look at me and the first thing that comes to mind is farmer, right? So this particular story that she told me was about a farmer named Mr. Reese. And Mr. Reese had just a little bitty piece of land, just a little patch of land that he worked. And because he was a man of a certain generation, and it was just a little bitty piece of land, he worked that land with a mule. So he would be in the field behind a mule hitched up to a plow every day, up and down, up and down, up and down. And he developed a reputation for always being found behind that mule. No matter what was going on, he was going to be working the land with that mule. That was his work ethic. That was his reputation. So his favorite celebrity came to town. Didn't matter. It was during the middle of the day. He was working the land with that mule. They were giving away free stuff downtown. Didn't matter. He would be working that land with the mule. No matter what, Mr. Reese was behind the mule. And one day his neighbor came over with his children and just sort of stood on the side of the land and shot the breeze, talking not about anything in particular, as Mr. Reese continued to walk up and down behind that mule. The children were playing on the side there, doing their thing. They were talking. When all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Mr. Reese just sort of stands to attention. He drops the reins of the plow. He says, "Hold my mule," and he rushes off. And the neighbor doesn't know what's going on. He says, what are you doing? You're always behind the mule. What's happening? Mr. Reese just says, "Hold my mule," and rushes off, only to just in the nick of time pull those children back from the side of the road as a speeding car passes by. He comes back and he says, "Thank you for holding my mule." So where am I going with this? What's the point? As my grandmother explained it to me, what this story tells us is that we get so used to being in our habits, in our routines, in our practices, but every now and then, something comes along that is so important, so critical, so life-threatening, so urgent that you just got to say, "Hold my mule." And I'm here to tell you this morning that right now in the state of Kansas, in August, in just a few weeks, we got us a Hold My Mule moment. We have that Hold My Mule moment because in Kansas, right now, our Kansas State Supreme Court is under attack. The idea of fair and impartial courts are under attack. And that is a Hold My Mule moment. Now, I don't care what issue is important to you. I don't care whether LGBTQ plus rights is the thing that is most important in your life. I don't care whether it's abortion access and reproductive freedom, or voting rights, or immigrants' rights, or voting rights, or democracy, or for accountability, separation of powers, transparency. I don't care if any of those things are your most important issue. I'm here to tell you that the most important thing to do to protect all of those things is to make sure that the Kansas State Supreme Court remains fair and impartial. It is the most important thing to do. The most important thing to do. The voters are going to weigh in on this in just a few weeks, but I'm here to tell you that this ballot measure, and I'll tell you more about it in a minute, but this ballot measure about our state Supreme Court in Kansas is the single most important thing that has ever happened in human history. People learned how to make fire, and then comes this. That's how important it is. That's how important it is. That is why it is a Hold My Mule moment. So I want to talk to you about just three things on this. I want to tell you a little bit about the system that we've got and why it matters. I want to tell you about what the proposed changes to it. And then I want to tell you why it really matters, what the impact of that really is. So first, let's talk a little bit about the system that we already have in Kansas. It is very similar to the system in Missouri, actually. Both states use a similar process for selecting their state Supreme Courts. In Kansas, we have the system that we have because back in the 1950s, there was a huge corruption scandal. Kansas is a place that really prides itself on clean politics. It's not like Louisiana, where my daddy is from, where they take a perverse pride in their corruption. No, in Kansas, we pride ourselves on clean politics. This is the one big exception where there was a huge corruption scandal involving the state Supreme Court. And so in the 1950s, the voters of Kansas said, we want our courts to be fair and impartial, and created what they call the merit-based system. It means that there's an open process. Anytime one of the 7 seats on the state Supreme Court opens up, there's a merit-based process. Folks apply. They go through a process. They're interviewed. It's on a YouTube channel. You can watch it if you got insomnia. Everything is out in the open where everybody can see it. And this commission is appointed partly by the governor, of community members and partly made up of constitutional experts. They interview the candidates. They send 3 names to the governor, whoever that happens to be in the moment. The governor selects one person, puts them on the court, and then at the very next election, the voters weigh in and say either we like them, we want to keep them, or we want to fire them and send them home. And then every couple of years, you do the same thing. Those same justices come up on the bench. This is really designed to give us the best of both worlds. It's designed to have a merit-based system where judges are selected based on whether they have ever read a law book, whether they know anything about the law, whether they have a judicial temperament, whether they're going to treat people fairly or curse them out in the courtroom, whether they're going to keep the cases moving along or not, and still give the voters the right to weigh in and say whether they want that justice to continue or not. All of that creates a system that is fair and impartial. And we know that because the court is not political at all. Trust me, I've talked to them. These people do not understand politics. It is a fair and impartial court that has ruled against the legislature and the governors regardless of who is in power. They have ruled against Republican governors and Democratic governors. They've ruled against Governor Kelly. They've ruled against Governor Brownback. They rule based on the state constitution and the law, not based on the politics of the moment. That is exactly what we want a Supreme Court to be. I don't want to call anybody out here at least not anybody in this room, maybe some people somewhere else, but I don't want to call anybody here out today. But I just would wonder whether anyone here, before this particular ballot measure came up and before there were TV ads and things like that, whether anyone here ever spent 10 minutes of their life thinking about the Kansas Supreme Court. Probably not. Probably not. Most people probably haven't. And there's a reason for that. It's because they have been doing the job that we assigned them to do. The fact that it has not been high profile and high controversy tells you something about the fact that they are doing what we asked them to do, that they are not making themselves the center of the political world or the center of the conversation. Instead, that they have been acting in a fair and impartial way. That's what we want from a judiciary that is supposed to hold the politicians accountable. In this system, our justices are justices, and you can agree with them or disagree with them. I disagree with them a bunch, actually. So my job at the ACLU is to criticize everything, everybody, every day, everywhere. So it is not the fact that I love the court and think it is perfect. It is instead that in an adult, mature, professional society, when we disagree with one another, we don't turn the table over and throw a hissy fit. Instead, you come back, you make a new argument, you reason it through again, and when folks are fair and impartial, you have a fair shot of doing that. That is what we have under the current system, and it is important to the functioning of our democracy and the protection of our rights. And so when someone says we want to take that away, I say that's a hold my mule moment. So that's the system we got. The system that we would change to, because there is a ballot measure before the voters. I'm not going to tell you today how to vote, but I think you're going to gather what my perspective is. There's a ballot measure on ballot that would change our state constitution and get rid of this system that we have that creates fair and impartial courts, and instead replace it with a system of direct, statewide, partisan elections. So justices for the state Supreme Court would be running against one another in head-to-head matchups. They would cease to be judges and would become politicians instead. Now, I was at the library just the other day. I went to the reference section. I pulled a thesaurus down from the shelf. I looked up the word judge. Politician was not one of the synonyms. There's a reason for that. We should keep it that way. Judges should not be politicians. What this proposed measure would do in turning judges into politicians is not really just that. It would also open the door to millions of dollars of candidate spending. It would really turn it into something that billionaire political donors from out of state can buy and sell. And we know that. We know that. That's not just speculation. That's not just me wish casting. We know it because other states that have this system, that is exactly what happens. billionaire political donors come in. They spend millions of dollars to try and buy the courts and to buy the outcomes that they want. In Wisconsin, just a few months ago, they spent $100 million on one single state Supreme Court race. Elon Musk himself spent $55 million on that race, but all in, they spent $100 million. I personally have seen all that I care to see of Mr. Elon Musk. I do not particularly want to see him here in town. This is really about whether billionaire political donors will be able to buy outcomes or not. I don't think anyone should go into court having to wonder whether the justice took millions of dollars from the other side, from someone on the other side. I don't think anyone should go into court wondering whether the judge is going to leave the bench in the middle of the hearing to go and start dialing for dollars, raising money, calling billionaires to see if they can get investment in their campaign. I think, frankly, maybe you feel differently, but I am tired of billionaire political donors thinking that they can buy absolutely everything in America, and I would like for there to be at least one thing in this country that they cannot buy. I would like that thing to be the Kansas State Supreme Court. So when you tell me that fair and impartial courts are threatened, and when you tell me that billionaire political donors would be able to buy our court and buy the justices, I say that is a hold my mule moment. So the third and final thing I want to tell you today is about the impact of this, because the impact of that seems pretty severe to me to begin with, right? Like it seems to me already probably a bad idea to get rid of fair and impartial courts. It seems like a bad idea to turn the power over to billionaire political donors. So it kind of begs the question, why on earth would anybody propose such a thing? I mean, it sounds pretty bad on its face. Why would anyone even entertain such an idea? And I think you just have to look at a little bit of history here, and then you got to look at what the folks who want this say themselves. So first, again, the Kansas Supreme Court, not perfect. I disagree with it quite often. There are a couple of them I personally dislike. But the court has repeatedly ruled in ways that protect our rights and freedoms, and has done so especially in the case of abortion access and school funding. So a couple years ago, the state Supreme Court is the one in Kansas that ruled that we have a state-level constitutional right to access abortion and reproductive health care. They did that under the state constitution, not under the federal constitution. And y'all will remember, not too long after that, the federal right to abortion access and reproductive health care went away. It is still protected in Kansas because we have a state-level right that the state Supreme Court found and upheld, and then the voters themselves, when given the opportunity, reaffirmed it in overwhelming measure, right? 59% of Kansas voters said that they wanted to keep that right in the Constitution. But there are some folks who don't like that. There are some folks who are still mad about that decision, who are still mad at the Supreme Court that they found that way, and they're mad that they didn't get their way. There are another set of folks who are still mad that 15 years ago, the state Supreme Court ruled that the schools had to be adequately and equitably funded, that public schools in Kansas had to be funded. The governor at the time, Sam Brownback, anybody remember him? Yeah, right. Like people still giving the thumbs up. He's been gone for a long time, but that's how much we remember him. He had put forward this school funding process and these spending cuts that devastated public schools. The state Supreme Court is the one that stepped in and said that violates the state constitution. And so there's a set of folks who are still mad that 15 years later, they are still mad that the court found that public schools had to be protected in our state. And so the folks who are behind this amendment, they say out loud, you don't have to listen to me, you don't have to trust me, you can Google it. Chris Kobach, the Attorney General of the state, says out loud that this amendment is designed to undo those outcomes. He says it's about getting a court that will ban abortion in every case, that will ban public school funding, and that will give him all of the other outcomes that he and the billionaire political donors want. You ain't got to listen to me. He says it out loud. Just a few days ago, he said that if this amendment passes, quote, it changes everything in Kansas. It changes everything. That's why I say no matter what issue it is you care about, whether it's LGBTQ plus or abortion or public schools or voting or immigration, all of those issues over the next couple of years are going to find their way to the state Supreme Court. That is especially true now when the federal courts are not always the guarantors of our rights that they have been in the past. Anybody taking a look at the U.S. Supreme Court lately? Don't count on them to protect abortion or voting rights, that's for sure. But we can still protect those at the state level through the state Supreme Court because they have different powers and they work under the state constitution. And so the folks who are behind this amendment, they're not behind it because they want it to be a political science seminar on the optimal way of selecting a state Supreme Court. This is not some sort of technocratic change. It sounds boring, right? Like when I said judicial selection, some of you fell asleep right away. It's not the most sexy thing that you can imagine. But that's because it's not actually about that. It's not actually about the selection process for the state Supreme Court. It is about whether the right to abortion will be protected, whether voting rights will be protected, whether trans rights that are up at the state Supreme Court right now will be protected, whether immigrants' rights at a time when local law enforcement agencies are violating our state constitution to collaborate with ICE's secret police, whether those will be protected. It's about all of those things. It is about whether the progress that we have made in Kansas over the last 70 years will be kept, sustained, and can keep going forward, or whether we're going to go back in time. Now, I think that Kansas is an imperfect but beautiful place. I think there's a lot of good, there's a lot to work on, but there's a lot of good too, and so we don't need to change everything. What we do need to do is make sure that people's rights are protected, and the best tool that we have to do that in the face of extremists and billionaires is a fair and impartial Kansas Supreme Court. And so when I think about the damage that would be wrought, the way that real people's lives would be harmed, the way that folks would not be able to gain access to abortion, the way that LGBTQ plus folks' dignity would be denied, the way that voting would be suppressed, the way that schools would be defunded, when I think about all of that, I say, hold my mule. That is what is up for folks to consider in August. I'm not going to tell you what to do. What I am going to tell you is that the stakes here are important, and no matter what your side on the issue is, it is important that folks turn out and vote in this August election, because in it, we are going to decide the future of the state. You're seeing a lot of candidate advertisements. Good for them. Congratulations. Go forth. The candidate races are important. Wonderful. You can pick whatever candidate you want. I don't care. This is more important than any of those. Because those candidates, even the ones who succeed, will be there for 2 or 4 or 6 years. This decision that we make about the Kansas state constitution and the Supreme Court will be with us not just in 2026, but in 2036 and 46 and 56 and 66 and 76 and beyond. It is a multi-generational decision that we are making about whether we are going to have fair and impartial courts, whether we're going to say no to billionaires buying our courts, and whether our democracy is going to persist or not. And so, I said before, this is mostly for those of you in Kansas, but let us be clear. If this thing succeeds in Kansas, it's just going to be the first stop on a 50-state tour. They coming for Missouri next. Actually, the bill is already in the Missouri legislature. It was already introduced last year to do the same thing. You know, this whole merit-based system I described, it's actually called, by court experts, the Missouri Plan, because Missouri, y'all going to have to rename it. They are coming for every single state, and that is because if this succeeds, it will be proof that you can take the courts out of their normal role of being fair and impartial. You can eliminate accountability, and you can use it as just another tool at the disposal of billionaire political donors to get what they want. So when I think about all of that, I say that we have some work to do. It's important that folks know about this. Again, regardless of which side you're on, it's important that folks know about this before August so that folks can show up on or before August 4th to vote on this constitutional amendment. But as for me, when I see that fair and impartial courts are on the ballot, I say hold my mule. When I see that an independent judiciary is on the ballot, I say hold my mule. When I see that abortion is on the ballot, I say, hold my mule. When I see that voting rights are on the ballot, I say, hold my mule. When I see immigrants' rights and LGBTQ plus equality on the ballot, I say, hold my mule. And when I see democracy itself and everything that is good about Kansas at stake, oh, my friends, I say, hold my mule. Thank you very much.
All right. We're going to open it up for some questions. I've got the first one. Do they have term limits for the Supreme Court in Kansas? They do.
So in Kansas, they serve 6-year terms, and there is a mandatory retirement age for Kansas State Supreme Court justices. When you hit age 70, it is a mandatory retirement from the U.S. Supreme Court. It is not like the U.S. Supreme Court, where apparently you can serve past death.
Yes, yes. So you would advocate term limits for the U.S. Supreme Court, the federal?
I support reform of the U.S. Supreme Court, and including in the way that it considers its work, but there is no proposal at this point for term limits at the U.S. Supreme Court.
All right. Here's our first question.
Hi, thank you so much for your discussion about this really important issue. You mentioned the U.S. Supreme Court and how we see all over how impartial it's acting, but it is not an elected process like how it's being proposed that in Kansas they should adopt a partisan electoral process. And I think many people seeing the U.S. Supreme Court would say, yeah, I would want to vote for them. That would make things better. And I was wondering, and I'm not saying I agree with that position at all, but I was wondering what you would say to somebody like that.
Yeah, so I think two things. First, I think that we know for sure that the folks who are behind this sort of amendment don't care about that, because they are not suggesting that we take away power from, for example, Donald Trump to appoint members of the U.S. Supreme Court, right? So there's a hypocrisy there involved, and that not a one of them has suggested that any sort of power be taken away from Donald Trump to appoint folks to the U.S. Supreme Court. The second thing I would say is that in Kansas we do vote. You already do have the right to vote on Supreme Court justices. That is why it is the best of both worlds, because there is the merit-based system, but also you vote at every election to either retain or fire members of the Supreme Court. That is something that is not present at all at the federal level, and I think that fully satisfies the ability of folks to participate in the process. And it is the voters of Kansas who proposed that back in the 1950s when we adopted this system. The voters of Kansas said that they wanted to keep some check there involved through having retention elections. And so what I would say is you do already get to vote. What we don't have right now is a system that allows billionaire political donors to buy the whole shebang.
All right, we got a question here.
Can you go into more detail on the merit-based process and how the participants are selected? It sounds like that system is something that we should implement for other officials too.
Yeah, so the merit-based system is very robust and very rigorous. So there is a commission of 9 people that receives applications. Absolutely anyone can apply, provided you are a lawyer in the state of Kansas who's practiced for 10 years. Absolutely anyone can apply to be a state Supreme Court justice. The applications are read, opened in public. The full files are available for the public to read and access, and they're discussed by the commission in an open meeting in a sad little conference room in Topeka, but it's put on YouTube live streamed. Folks can go and witness it. The commission interviews each of the candidates. They do a very thorough background check. They do lots of reference checks. They put them through the ringer, and then they pick 3 names to go to the governor. The governor then does a separate round of background checks and interviews before picking one of those 3 to go on the court. The other thing about this is that the commission is made up partly of legal experts, partly of community members. The governor gets to appoint some, but the governor only gets to appoint 1 person every year. which means that at any given time, right, a governor who comes in, they're inheriting a lot of times half of the commission from the last governor. They don't get to just come in and change it in one fell swoop to get whatever they want. All of that helps to insulate it from politics and make it about merit, make it about whether someone understands the law and has a judicial temperament. It works really well, which is why a bunch of other states have adopted this system since Kansas did. Not a single state has gone the other way. Not a single state that has a merit-based system has gone back to direct partisan elections. We would be the very first if we were to do that.
All right, we got time for one last question here.
Thank you for speaking today. I enjoyed your talk. What prompted you to get involved in law? And related, what prompted you to start working for the ACLU?
So I have been a member of the ACLU since I was in high school. I was a high school journalist. I wrote an article that the school administration didn't like because, in case you haven't noticed, I have opinions. And so got in a little bit of trouble for that and asked my advisor what I should do about that. They said, contact the ACLU. I didn't know what that was, so I went and pulled the encyclopedia off the shelf, looked it up, found that I had a bunch of other values that I shared with the organization, and so have been a member since then. I started working at the ACLU in 2015, especially because at that time in Kansas, the Secretary of State was Chris Kobach, and that was a time when his voter suppression regime was going nationwide, when he was being treated as some great policy expert on voting rights, and that his positions should be replicated. And I could not disagree with that more strongly. I think that the voter suppression regime that he was instituting was a danger to the state and to the country, and I wanted to spend all of my time defending voting rights, defending the rights of people, and especially at that time the threat was so acute from him that I thought that the ACLU was a great place to do that. And so I have been in the ACLU network since 2015 here in Kansas and in Florida, fighting to defend people's rights every day. And it's been a wild ride because, in case you haven't noticed, things are a little tough right now. All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And as you can see, we have 3 ways you can make donations, 3 subsets of the organization. But yeah, I would say this has been a hold my mule decade, just my opinion. But all right, there we go. Questions. In just a moment, I'll be passing the volunteer task cards basket. Please grab one that you can accomplish today. And after our meeting concludes, and once you've finished the task, return that note card to the done purple box in the lobby near the drink station. All the cleaning supplies you might need are in the white cabinet in the foyer right by the lemonade. We need everyone to help keep this place looking great. We're a volunteer organization, so all right, well, I think they're coming. Oh, right here. Sorry, gosh, right by the snake bite kit. So, all right. One of these days, I'm going to do the MC job, and Jason won't have to say a word. That's my aspiration. Okay. Join us for lunch after Oasis to continue the conversation at Tanner's, 3900 Rainbow Boulevard. And I would say, this is not, I'm off script here, but if you haven't tried their plate that has the Brussels sprouts, they're roasted, they're actually pretty good. And I'm not a Brussels sprout person normally, so come join us for some Brussels sprouts. All right, next week our featured speaker will be Nicoya Helm on mental health first aid. Our musical guests will be the Night Owls and Community Moment from Aiden Reedy. And I would like to add one thing. Micah was very complimentary of the job Denise does. I don't know how many of you realize that she is the one who finds these speakers for us. And so if you have any ideas, any suggestions, if you know someone that would do a good job, in a presentation like this, please see Denise Decker. She'd be happy to get your input. While our musician is coming back to the stage, Josephine, and we want to thank all those who are monthly donors that help keep KC Oasis running. Kansas City Oasis is a 501c3 nonprofit run solely on donations and volunteers. If you like the topics and music today, please consider donating through kcoasis.org/donate or by Venmo. Our Venmo info can be found at the merch table in the lobby, as well as cash donation jars. Recurring monthly donations through our website are most helpful. And don't forget the tip jar here for Josephine. So, Josephine, take it away.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much again. I've had so much fun playing my originals for you guys. Thank you. I also enjoyed that conversation. That was super cool. Thank you for that. This last one is called, actually, yeah, I'm going to play one called Fresh Daisy Kisses for you guys. Going back to how I was talking about earlier, that I just moved out and kind of started going out and hanging out with friends. I have had a bunch of autoimmune issues, and so I've just been sick for a whole year straight and just kind of been in my bed. Haven't been able to walk some days. And so I made a friend named Sienna, and I just had a really good friend group with them, and I've been hanging out with them a lot. But I just have felt like a lot of things that I felt like I hadn't felt since I was younger, and just feeling really good about myself and feeling good about where I'm at in my life and stuff like that. But again, thank you guys so much. I'm Josephine Eve. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Got squeezed by fresh daisy kisses all night long. Almost forgot what this is. I haven't felt it in so long. It brings back the memories of when I was young. Being loved by myself again. I haven't felt it in so long. Baby, I wanna go somewhere. Been trapped in my tower for a while. I think I'm ready to go somewhere. Feel the melody when I sing this beat. But nothing quite gets me like when they sing with me. They go. Got squeezed by fresh daisy kisses all night long. Almost forgot what this is. I haven't felt it in so long. It brings back the memories of when I was young. Being loved by myself again. I haven't felt it in so long. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Very good, very good. All right. Before you head out, take a few minutes to help clean up. We again thank our musicians. Tom, thank you for being here and tuning in online. See you next week.